almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horathon. And remember the big giveaway at 9.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Halloween 3, Season of the Frickin' Silver Shamrock, 1982. The one without Michael Myers. No, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Guys, I am excited as hell to do this review. Halloween 3 is such a controversial Halloween film, very reminiscent of Halloween Ends. Now, it is one that you either love or it's one that you hate. I'm on the side of the fence, to just get this out of the way in the beginning of the review, that loves this movie. Now, I can understand that the special effects are a bit dated. I can understand why people might not want to get into this movie, but I like this movie. And here's my reasons why. I'm going to touch on the negatives. Trust me, I always give a fair shake, pros and cons. But Halloween 3, guys, if you haven't seen this movie, a quick general synopsis is there is this company, Silver Shamrock, and they are mass producing these masks, and they're very mysterious masks. There is this doctor, played by Tom Atkins. He is awesome. He is like an everyday man. His name is Don Chalice. And there is... This movie is hard to sum up. Yeah, it's hard to sum up because, you know, without giving away spoilers, it's hard to talk about what this movie is, because so much of the plot bases on spoilers and stuff like that. But obviously, this is a spoiler review. All of my, Halloween franchise reviews so far have dealt with spoilers. I mean, this movie is over 30 years old, so I don't think it's news to anybody that Silver Shamrock is out to kill children with their Halloween masks on Halloween night. So yeah, basically, Dan Chalice is with Ellie Grimbridge, and they are going to Santa Mira, the last location that Ellie's father was before his mysterious death. Now, Mr. Grimbridge found out that Silver Shamrock was going to kill children, innocent children, and sacrifice them on Halloween night. He caught wind of this, and, well, the animatronics came to kill him in the hospital where Tom Atkins' character worked at. And it is a very mysterious death, because in the beginning of this movie, it opens with that badass... Well, all of the scores, all of the music in this movie is badass. I'm convinced that Alan Harworth and John Carpenter are my two favorite composers of any movie. I mean, their scores build such an atmosphere that it's infectious. Like, it just puts you in the state of mind that you have to be in for this type of material, for this type of film. And this movie is not directed by John Carpenter, by the way. It feels like it's directed by John Carpenter, but it actually is not. Tommy Lee Wallace actually directed Halloween 3, but I feel like John Carpenter had a lot to say, as he did help write the script for this movie. I'm all over the place, guys. When I get an opportunity to talk about Season of the Witch, my mind goes scatterbrained. The opening of the movie, this guy, Mr. Grimbridge, is running mysteriously down the road. He then gets killed by who we didn't know at the time, animatronic, these guys in the suits, and that basically kickstarts this movie. And it's very heavily based on mystery and a lot of, subversion of expectation. I remember my first experience with this film. It was at the lunch table in high school, and my good buddy at the time, well, actually no, he wasn't my friend at the time. We were kind of getting to know each other because we sat at this lunch table together. He has now gone on to be one of my good friends. We were talking about the Halloween franchise, and at the time, early in high school, I didn't see all the films, and I didn't see Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And he explained it to me, and he was like, yeah, this is the one that doesn't have Michael Myers in it. It's very weird, and I don't like it. It's very weird. Anyway, he winds up lending me his Halloween box set. and I binged all of the Halloween films, including Halloween 3. And at first, on a first viewing, I did not really catch on to this movie. I felt like it was slow, it was pretentious, it was, building to something that wasn't even all that satisfying of an ending. But when you really understand this movie and the atmosphere and the way that it builds suspense slowly up until that final scene where he's on the phone trying to get the Silver Shamrock ad off the TVs and he's like, no, stop it. It is a slow burn until that point. And when you get to that point and then it goes to the credits, it's so satisfying. The topic is, yes, child murder and mass genocide, but the way that this film is done with the aspects of science fiction, the aspects of horror, thriller, mystery, it is such a fun watch. Now, for some, the commercial or advertisement from Silver Shamrock, the 8 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock, that gets annoying. To me, it's almost like nostalgic, or I don't know, I just get a Halloween vibe in my head. I get sent to that headspace when I hear that. I'm like, it's Halloween time, like we're watching this movie. When I hear that advertisement, or I hear Silver Shamrock, or I see one of the 3 iconic masks, the pumpkin, the skeleton, or the witch, it just gets me all excited and it's like, yep, put that movie on. I want to see that movie. So much of this movie relies on the atmosphere, like I said. I think if the score wasn't done by Carpenter and Alan Harworth, it wouldn't be the film that it is. We follow a character in Dan Chalice that is kind of an asshole. He's kind of a prick, but he's an everyday man and he's almost relatable. Like, there's certain things that he does that I wouldn't condone. Like, every woman that he's with in this movie, like in a scene with, he hits on or flirts or touches, and it's kind of weird. But besides that, he's like got this dad bod. He's not like this outlandish superhero type that's coming in to save the day. He's just this everyday guy, found himself on this journey looking for any clues as to the disappearance and death of Ellie's father, and you can't help but root for the guy, and you can't help but root for Ellie. I think Ellie is a great character. She plays this innocent daughter to her murdered father who is just searching for answers, and I think those 2 characters are so easily, they're so easy to latch on to and cheer for. And then there's these characters like Buddy Kupfer and Little Buddy and his whole family, who are like the 80s cheese factor in this movie. Like, you know what I'm talking about, especially if you've seen the movie. When Little Buddy and Buddy Kupfer come into the movie, and he's just this overly nice guy, and the things that he says, it's just such 80s cheese, and you can't help but enjoy it. It's such a time capsule of a movie. And speaking of overly nice and friendly and 80s cheese, let's talk about Colonel Cochran, the main bad of Season of the Witch. Colonel Cochran is the owner of Silver Shamrock. He has roots that go back to Ireland and go back to the original tradition, the celebration of Samhain. And that's where the Season of the Witch comes from, the witchcraft. He is from those roots, and he talks about in the 3rd act of the movie that the last festival of Samhain, the hills ran red with sacrifices, and now he's trying to bring the holiday back to prominence. But he didn't choose this date. The planets are in alignment, he says. And it's so cool that it makes the holiday, the day of Halloween, important. In the Halloween films, the ones with Michael Myers in them, Halloween is kind of like a backdrop for Myers' murders. Halloween is the day that we have been counting down to in all of this movie, Season of the Witch. It is the day, and, well, when the event will take place if Silver Shamrock succeeds. And I think that is so awesome, and I think the idea of doing an anthology with the Halloween franchise would have been awesome and very interesting to see. Almost like an American Horror Story, but a theatrical American Horror Story that we get every Halloween in theaters. I think that idea is to die for. But without the failure of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, we would have never gotten Halloween 4 The Return of Michael Myers. We might not have gotten any more Myers movies. If this movie were to have been successful, they probably would have hopped on the train of doing anthologies from there on out. Maybe we would have still been getting Halloween anthologies new every single year. The thought of that is so interesting, is it not? But yeah, Colonel Cochran is such a good bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, you hate the guy on screen, like he's the villain, like he's the big bad of this movie. But you can't help but like his portrayal of this big bad. He is so evil and unredeemable in this movie, and I think that's what makes good villains, when they're unredeemable and just so bad and willing to do the worst kind of shit. And murdering a bunch of children is a pretty horrible thing, and this movie deals with that plot and that story beat so well that it doesn't feel like it's out of taste. You know what I mean? And let's talk about the gore and stuff and the kills in Season of the Witch. I mean, this film has some iconic scenes, like the scene of little Buddy with the pumpkin mask on, and while it's melting his face. That's iconic to me. That is one of the most iconic frames in the Halloween franchise, if you ask me. I think that the three masks are iconic. The snakes crawling out of his mouth and the bugs. Not to mention when the one woman gets killed, Marge Gutman, I think. The woman who is going to Silver Shamrock to buy the masks or get her order of the masks, but then has to stay in the hotel or the motel with Dan Chalice and Ellie. She's like right next door, and she gets her face exploded or blown up. I think that the gore level of Season of the Witch is very underrated. Like, Season of the Witch went there. Like, exploding people's faces, having snakes, bugs, and all sorts of goo shit crawl out of people's mouths and ooze. Ugh. Guys, Halloween 3 is such a good time. I think if you are a Halloween 3 detractor, I think you need to give it another chance. I think you need to look at it from a new perspective. Look at the suspense. Look at the slow burn that this movie is. Like when Ellie and Dan go to Santa Mira, and the town is just desolate. It's just eerie. And you see the security cameras turn and watch them as they enter the town. And then the PA system goes off. 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock, curfew, curfew. It's just so perfectly built. You see certain things at certain times when the artist, the filmmaker here, wants you to see them. And it all builds to that climactic ending. And I think that climactic ending is one of the best. I love that ending where Dan Chalice is just screaming on the phone, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" And then it just cuts to credits. And then you have that awesome score kick in over the credits. And you know the impending doom. You know what is at stake. The lives of all these children is at stake here. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, guys. I have to give it an 8.5 out of 10. The only thing that really detracts from this movie is the out-of-date special effects. Like when Colonel Cochran finally gets zapped by that rock, that big boulder from Stonehenge, and it just evaporates him. That special effect is pretty dated. Some of the acting by the animatronics or the robots is kind of Like in the beginning, you have that awesome chase scene, and then the one robot or animatronic, whatever we're calling them, gets squished by the car as it slowly backs up, and it just is like this weird, like, and then it just kind of stands there, side profile, and it's this weird crush sound effect, and I don't know. I think it would be a lot harder to kill an animatronic robot killer than just having this car slowly back up on him. But yeah, there's not many negatives. I mean, I do understand the people that say it's a slow burn and it's a slow movie, but to me, it's a good time, and I recommend it. This movie is Maximus Tomatoes approved. I recommend it to you. Go check out Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Alright guys, that's my review of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. We now only have 2 movies left in the franchise to review. Halloween 2 and Halloween, the original classic from 1978. I want to thank you if you've been on this journey with me. We've been reviewing all of the Halloween movies in the entire franchise, starting from the newest and going all the way to the original. Go back, the playlist is in the eye above my head. Yeah, I've been Maximus Cardillo. I'll see you in the next review. Only one question left to ask. Are you not entertained? Stop it! Stop it! No! Shut it off! Please! Shut it off! No! No! Stop it! I had to.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!